all of us guys.
Hi, it's Steve Hargett, and welcome to another Library 2.0 mini conference, School Libraries and AI. Our special conference host is Elissa Malespina. Elissa, welcome. Welcome to your gang.
Hi,
This happening with support from futureofai.org, which is a fun project we've just started, and hope that you'll go and join us there. So, Elissa, I'm going to turn the time over to you, and you can get us going.
Sure. Oh my God. I'm so excited that everybody's here from all over the world. I cannot thank you guys enough for being here for this. This was an idea that sort of Steve and I started talking about just a little while ago. And it's amazing how quickly this has sort of come together. And I want to get into, I'm not going to talk too much about this because I really want to get into our discussion. We have about an hour and we have some amazing guests. So I'm going to have you guys all introduce yourselves. I'm just going to call out names based on where you are on my screen. There's no order. Everybody is equally amazing. So Elizabeth, you are first on my screen. So, go ahead and give everybody a little introduction about who you are and why you are here with us.
Okay, hi. I'm delighted to be here. I'm a trainer and advisor for school libraries. As you can tell by my accent, I'm from the UK, currently based in York. I run a training membership for school librarians to help empower them work alongside teachers. For those of you that don't know about the UK system, it's very poor at the moment, where the system is not employing qualified librarians. So the librarians in post need a lot of support. So my focus is inquiry-based learning, which does involve a lot of thinking about AI and how that is going to be incorporated in what we are doing and why, which is why I was quite excited about being invited along to come and have a chat with you this evening.
Thank you. Next is Heather. Heather, can you give us a little background?
Hi, everyone. My name is Heather Moorefield-Lang. I'm an associate professor at the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. There's a lot of names that I recognize on the list. I've been an academic librarian in Virginia. I've been a professor in South Carolina. I've been a school librarian in North Carolina. I'm back in North Carolina now. I've been a part of a lot of the AI conversations here in North Carolina, especially in higher education, with policy, as well as equity. I've been part of a planning program here with UNCG for, we had kind of like an AI academy, just because there's, a lot of questions about AI and how it can be used and, the dangers and all of those types of things. So glad to be here. Glad to see some of you all, and looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you. IdaMae.
Hi, I am Mae Craddock. I am a public school librarian from Albemarle County, Virginia. I am really interested in using AI in instruction. So I am lucky enough to have students that I see every day that can work with me on this.
And last but not least, James Allen.
Hello, my name is James. I currently work at the Kentucky Department of Education in the Office of Education Technology. The title is silly, but I'm our statewide school library person. I don't know, something like that. And it's been a few months. I forget when we did it, but I helped create just a guidance brief on AI things that we, sent out for our Kentucky folks. So it would have the Kentucky Department of Education logo on it. But yeah, look forward to talking with you all.
Thank you guys so much for joining us today. And we're going to get right into the questions. This is the first question. I'm going to put it up. I'll put up a little thing on the screen so people can understand later sort of what we're talking about. But the question for all of you guys is, how do you envision the role of artificial intelligence involving in school libraries over the next 5 to 10 years? And sort of what are the most promising opportunities AI presents for libraries. I'm gonna, how do we want to do this? Do we want to just like go first? Does anyone want to volunteer, or am I going to choose? I always hate choosing.
Well, shall I go first?
Sure,
Why don't you
why don't you go
choose-
first, Elizabeth?
choose me first, and then you can choose somebody
Okay.
else first next time.
Perfect.
I think AI has presented itself a real opportunity for school librarians. And I'm excited that actually we are at the stage where school librarians need to begin to understand that AI is just another tool, that we now need to empower ourselves to be brave enough to talk about the skill set that we have as school librarians. I call myself, I say we when I'm talking about school librarians because I've lived in school library world for forever. And so when I talk about we, I mean a collective we. I believe that actually a lot of school librarians don't feel as if they have the knowledge and the understanding. And we need to sort of change that conversation based on the fact that, you know, when we're talking about digital literacy, when we're talking about information literacy, all of these skills are going to boost us into being experts in using AI. Because actually the skill set itself is very, very similar. We talk about critical thinking, we talk about independent learning. And I'm really excited about the fact that we've started to talk about inquiry-based learning more. You know, teaching to the test is going to become a thing that is impossible to do in the future. And I believe that actually, if we can empower school librarians to talk more about their skill set and how it links with AI, I think in the next 5 to 10 years, if we get the conversation right, if we start talking about it now, school librarians become an important part of this journey. I think it's a real important that actually school librarians do investigate and discover, because obviously you can't talk about a tool that you have no knowledge of. So playing with ChatGPT and Midjourney and all of the other things that come along with it is really important. But actually bring yourselves back and understand that the skill set that you have is perfect for this new AI world, and we need to empower school librarians to talk about that more. So the next 5 to 10 years, school librarians are going to be absolutely essential, and they're going to be at the heart of the conversation.
So do you want to call on someone, Elizabeth, or or is there anyone here who wants to be like, okay, May wants to go? Good.
I wanted to jump in with an absolutely agree. As somebody who's in a public school library, the technology, when new technologies come out, they usually land in our lab. That's where the entrance to innovations happen, is in the library. So we get those things first, and we do have to be in a position to talk cogently about AI and its uses in the classroom. And I think in these next 5 to 10 years, we are going to be doing that. We do have the skill set. We are the bestest, fastest researchers in our buildings usually. And we are the people who can investigate that quickly and efficiently and make sure that our faculty and our staff have the information that they need when they need it and as complete as we can make it. So I'm going to go with absolutely agree, Elizabeth. Thank you so much.
Heather, let me go with you, and then we'll end with James.
So one of the conversations, and I am in higher education, but I'm with a school of education. One of the areas that we are focusing on is the unknown and the fear of our peers and our coworkers, so those that we're training to use these items. So when we're looking at our, you know, fellow and peer teachers, our fellow educators, but as well as the students, we want them to feel comfortable, because this idea of fear you know, we were worried about one-to-one devices. We were worried about, you know, new technologies, or, you know, each piece we've seen the concerns with each piece of technology and ideas, and, you know, how we're going to use them and what they're going to do. And will this be what replaces librarians each time? And, you know, there's some really nice ways to use AI. You've got generative, you've got task oriented. There's some really nice ways to work, you know, smarter, not harder, and using these types of tools. But particularly over the 5 to 10 year trajectory, the thing that we keep pushing, because I'm in a department I have a bachelor's of information science. We've also got computer science. We've also got e-gaming. These are the types of tools that not only are our students using, but eventually we've got students who are going to be creating. So to just say no AI, or to be afraid of AI, or the fear never does help. And it's the situation where, you know, we've got folks who are going to be creating the next generation of whatever we're using these for, and how we'll be integrating these. So that's another part of the conversation, at least at our level. But, you know, I mean, when we're looking at creating those critical thinkers for the future, users for the future, going into the job world and the job market, we have to kind of think about that as well.
Thank you, James. You get to end it for us, this question at least.
The webinar's over. Is that what I'm?
Yes, James, we're done. Just leave there.
I am really nervous about today. Like, I feel like my perspective is a little different than a lot of the people that I follow and respect and listen to. And it's changed. Like, I think words matter a bunch. We're saying AI, and that encompasses a lot of things. Like, I'm not super concerned about cancer research and like finding, you know, cures to things, and, you know, sorting through giant piles of data. Generative AI, though, I am not super happy about. And I think we've skipped some steps. Like, we went from teaching copyright and Creative Commons to now it doesn't matter where the things come from, because nobody can cite anything, because we don't know where the input is coming from to all these models. So I don't know how we got here so fast. So if I want to stick to the question, though, kind of like predicting, I don't think I can do that. I don't think currently we have any ethical generative AI tools. So I'm not saying we should be afraid of them and not learn about them. I just don't think they're something that I want to use, or I want my students to use. And in terms of guessing what's going to happen, like, I ended Accelerated Reader in my school 20 years ago. 20. And your thing was 5 to 10 years. And we have almost daily on our favorite Facebook groups people asking about AR. I'm like, I can't believe that's still a thing. So, like, you know, I'll wake up one morning and think this AI stuff is just going too fast. I can't stand this. I don't want to talk about it. To, I should really just take a breath. It's not, I don't think it will change that quickly. I just don't. It costs money. It's not free, even though people say it's free. It's not really. It has costs that we're not really talking about. So that's my prediction.
And I appreciate that perspective. Like, I don't want you to think you're not appreciated. I think that this is why we have these discussions, because I think we need to talk through this and figure it out and listen to sort of everybody's perspective on this. Because I also am like, hey, I don't know what next 5 to 10 years are. I mean, what I was presenting 2 months ago is now completely outdated. So, you know, to me, it's just something that I think we're gonna have to grapple with this idea. But I also agree with a lot of people that I don't think it's going away. So with that in mind, we are going to start with question number 2, which is on the impact of student learning. Let me see if I can switch that here on my little thing. Yes. Okay. So the impact in student learning. In what ways do you believe AI can enhance student learning, or not enhance it, like that it's problematic? And engagement in the library setting. Are there specific examples or projects that you have encountered that might illustrate this idea? Or tell us your thoughts on the idea of the impact, good or bad. I think, does anyone want to go first or should I choose? Okay, I'm going to choose and I'll go with Heather first and then let Heather choose. Sorry. I hate doing that.
No, you're fine. I'm looking at comments because
Yeah.
we've got some nice back and forth conversation. I have a question though before I start. Are you taking questions? Because we have some hands up.
Oh, what do you think? Do you think we should take questions? I mean, I
Let
haven't.
me answer that for you, Elissa.
Yeah.
We don't take audio questions during a keynote panel because it takes up too much time.
Okay.
So if someone has a question, they can put it in the chat. You will notice that some people have been putting questions in the Q&A or comments. Folks, using the chat is actually better because it's harder to see the Q&A questions. But I would say,
Yes,
Elissa,
I'm
just
like, where is the Q&A? Oh, I see the
Yeah.
Q&A.
Okay, so yeah, so we're not going to take questions now, but we'll try to, I'm going to leave about like, my goal is to leave about 5 to 10 minutes at the end. So maybe we can, I'll start paying more attention to the chat and maybe go back and, like encompass it with a question or two that people might have. Okay, so Heather, if you want to sort of talk on the impact a little.
Sure, to the best of my ability. So some of the impact that, so one person said in the chat, and this is true, one of the impact is we already see a vast difference of digital divide. The haves have it. I've got an iPad, an iPhone, couple of computers, and the have-nots do not. And it's going to widen what we have. The access, and James is right. Right now we don't have the best citation tools for this, though there is a massive emphasis of being able to cite at least what type of tools you're using for AI, especially if you're creating, using things along those lines. But it's also how much information, where's the information coming from? But, there's definitely going to have an impact on who has the information, where can they get the information, who's creating the information, who has access to be able to create the information that's in there. And also, but the other thing is that's very interesting about AI is it's what is already out there. And a conversation I had with a peer recently was that AI is essentially scraping itself for the information. It's scraping the internet and it's just now scraping itself, which sounds like a doctor appointment, but is the kind of situation where what is original thought, what is if you're creating AI images and music and dance and creativity, that's artificial intelligence is not intelligence. It's it can help with things, but to say that it's just going to think for us, that is a massive major leap. And so I am concerned when I hear that young people, this thing's just scraping itself, model collapse. Exactly. I'm always concerned to hear that folks are just having conversations with it and just getting the dopamine hits of conversations and things along those lines. So there's definitely some impact, and it's not the impact on learning that I'm speaking so much about, but just kind of the impact of, as always, of just like the information overload and the technology overload and the toxification of technology. So that's a little bit, it's still an impact, but it's different than probably, it still connects to education.
Okay, so Elizabeth, why don't you give us your sort of thoughts on this a little?
Yeah, well, I spotted somebody, I think it was Sarah Pavey, said that, this genie is out of the bottle and there's no way you're going to put it back in. So we now need to work out going forward how we're going to handle it. I was speaking to a university professor the other day, and he was talking about, AI becoming a support assistant and a support aid. And yet there are two ways to look at it, isn't it? There's looking at it within an educational setting and at home. And I think the two are very different. And yes, there's a huge digital divide. And even within schools, I suppose we're still talking about, some schools have more and less. So we're not going to solve all of those problems in a conversation like this tonight. But I do believe that actually, if we can learn to understand how it works best for us, we can then enhance the learning for our students. So simplistic things like being able to give a student who's struggling to read the article that you were giving to the whole class, that you can actually get AI to simplify it for you very quickly, is a possibility. And another way is getting, you know, after your student has written something, having, you know, what feeding it, and I know this is unethical, you know, we're bordering on ethics and how this works, and you know, so, but I'm talking more bigger picture, I suppose, rather than how it's going to be. You know, I think we're going to come on to ethics event, you know, later on in the conversation, but putting something in that a student has written and asking the AI to, you know, think about things that they might have missed. You know, somebody mentioned earlier a conversation. I suppose a conversation in an educational setting is very different from a conversation, you know, all the scary stuff that we think about when students are or children are sat at home having a conversation with AI. Yeah, we're not talking about that. We're talking about in an educational setting, how is that going to look? You know, I think it's really important that we understand that you know, we're all scared about plagiarism and children cheating. That's always going to happen, and there's going to be that impact. But generally, students want to do things quickly only if they're not interested in what they're being taught or what they're learning. And actually, you know, if we are teaching well, if we are helping them to understand, if we are engaging them as learners, then the will to cheat is narrowed. So we need to think about how we are going to use AI within an educational setting and how it evolves as we go along. So, you know, I think it's just really important that we take the benefits. I'm really pleased to see that for me, it feels as if it's slowed down a bit, that actually the big hype that there was, you know, in the last 18 months does seem to have sort of railed back in. It doesn't feel quite so scary to me now. And I must admit, I've decided that there's one or two things that I'm going to look at. And I think that that's how we need to be looking at it with our students, is that, you know, what is relevant to use within a school and what isn't. And you know, I think you can take it from there. I hope that made sense.
It totally made sense, and I agree with a lot of what you're saying. Let's go with James, and then we'll go to IdaMae, or just call you May.
I think the impact is going to obviously depend on what your school is doing, what your teachers are doing. I was kind of talking back and forth with some people online yesterday, and I was thinking about, you know, like, what if my high school teacher says they want me to use this AI tool on this project, like as a requirement for the project? We haven't talked about how AI was created, how it works. We haven't talked about where the data comes from. We haven't talked about the energy use. We haven't talked about the people who have to sit in a room and tag terrible images in order to safeguard things. Like, we haven't talked about any of that. But like, I know those things. So am I allowed to be like, I don't want to use that tool? I don't want to use that. Like, I'm an artist, I'm a musician. I want to create things myself. I don't want to use tools that impact people in terrible ways and just avoid copyright completely. So like, that impact is what I'm kind of worried about. And I've been to some sessions with some terrible advice, like set up a station and log in as yourself and let your first graders use the tool. I'm like people saying this in a professional development setting, like telling teachers to do that. Don't worry about the terms of service. Don't worry about any of the things. Like, I think it's not just the impact on the student. It's like, and I have 40 plus years of life experience to evaluate the AI output that I get. Our students don't have that. Even a senior in high school doesn't have what I have. They haven't read the same books. They haven't listened to the same things. They haven't traveled to the same places. Like they haven't done any of those things, but we expect them to be able to judge the AI just like we do as adults. And I don't think that's very fair. And nobody is really talking about it. It's not talked about in the sessions. It's not talked about online. I'm not hearing it. So I'll be done for now.
I think it's a very good points. And I think that those are points we have to, that we as librarians have the ability to talk to our students about and get them to realize, like to talk about that and figure that out. I don't think we can throw our children in blind without having these discussions. I think it's very important that these discussions are had.
But we're having professionals tell other teachers to throw their kids in. Like that's happening right now.
Yeah, it is. And that is something that we have to have conversations about. And I don't know the answer, but I think that is something that we have to figure out how we deal with. But IdaMae, what you want to end this? Or you want to go through the, finish off with this question, or?
I can, and I might be more specific, and that might like frame some things about like what's actually happening in classrooms. And I would also like to note that if I ignored the terms of service, that is a very quick way to get fired. So I think I'm never ignoring the terms of service. That would be very dangerous for me in a public school for sure. I have used this in classes with students in two separate ways. The first way that we used it was we had the students write. So we were doing the Cold War. They wrote a letter to the president detailing how they might solve one of the Cold War scenarios that were presented. Great. So now we have a body of text. We actually, because I think my students are used to me doing experiments at this point, we fed that text separately. So we cut and pasted their text into 3 separate text engines and asked it to correct the text for clarity and grammar. And once those came out the other side, the students went through and highlighted what changes had been made. It was really interesting because different engines picked up different things, and the students could see across how those are different. It really helped them understand that all of these things are not the same. All of the data sets are different. The things that are good at are different. So it hopefully is looking at using the right tool to solve the right problem. The other way that we've used it is when we were teaching students how to read scholarly journals around literature research, which are a little dense. English majors write a lot. So using the AI to backwards outline, so you can take the article and then ask it to outline the article so that students can very clearly see the structure. Similarly, when they have their research paper finished, if you ask it to be outlined, they can also see very clearly where they have left things out and made mistakes. So, and not using a single engine all the time has helped them think very critically about what is good for which situation. I know that some engines just have a bigger data set. Gemini has a bigger data set. ChatGPT is really good at natural language processing because it's based on 500 gigabytes of Reddit posts. So like different ones are good for different things. And I'm hoping that not only am I aiming towards not using AI to generate answers, but rather target critical thinking. And that's really where I'm going with the use of AI in classrooms with kids.
I appreciate, I agree with you. I think that that's something important to note, that they all do different things. We have to teach our kids about that, and also sort of the data sets and everything that sort of goes into how we are getting to where we are. So going into that, where we need, ethical considerations are something that is so important in all of this. We have to talk about the ethics around it and some of the ethical considerations. So what are some of the challenges that you're seeing for that librarians and educators should be aware of when they're integrating AI into their services? And how can librarians ensure that AI is used responsibly? I'd love to sort of hear some of your thoughts on this. And I'm going to start with James on this one because I think he's a good person to sort of start this off.
I get a little confused. I've been to a bunch of sessions already, either online or in person, and they say they're going to talk about ethics, but they're not. They don't really mean ethics of AI. They mean ethics of using AI. I feel like we skipped the whole first part about the ethics of should AI exist in the way it's existing right now. Like I didn't ask for it to be created. I didn't like it's just here. Like there weren't even really any options. And you could say that about other technologies, but I mean, this one feels different. I don't know. Like even when I was playing around with it in the beginning in 2022, the generative things, it just felt off. Like I felt like I was doing something I shouldn't be doing. And I don't think that was my lizard brain talking like I've seen in some posts. I think it was me thinking about copyright. It was thinking about art. It was thinking about human creation and all the work that goes into that. And this just taking that away. And I think that's like, and there's a bunch of ethical. I have a session in a little bit. We talk about some more issues, but I don't think the genie is out of the bottle. Like there is no such thing. Like we can choose what to do. Like we can choose to hold companies accountable. We don't have to just accept what they give us. Like the Google commercial during the Olympics, they took it off. Like people were so upset that it went away. Like it can happen. So I don't know. I know your question is not about the ethics of AI. It's about the ethics of using it. Right now, I don't see an ethical way to use it.
Okay. I appreciate that. I appreciate your thoughts on that. And I do think that that is true, that we skip over to how we use it, but we need to also talk about how it was created also and what's in there that is created. So I'm going to have IdaMae, if you want to talk a little about how you're using that with your students.
I do think that James is right, that we do need to talk about AI as its own thing, but not just between us. We also need to have conversations with students about what it is and what it is not, and how it can be used versus how it should be used. And those conversations are going to help our students come into the world because they are the ones who will be most impacted by the decisions that we are currently making. And having their voice included in the conversation, I think, is vitally important. They need to make thoughtful decisions about if or when AI will be included in their academic career, in their personal life, in their social life. And us making rules is asking teenagers to defy them. Like we have all been in classrooms where as soon as you say, never do this, of course, that's the first thing that they're going to do. I have been this person. I might still be this person. So as teachers and librarians, having both a conversation about AI as a monolith and what it is and what it does, and conversations about how it can be used, both are really important. And I don't think that there is a yes or no here, because I don't think that will be up to us to decide. I think the students that I have in classes right now are the people who are going to decide.
Heather, do you want to talk a little about how you see this on a you're dealing with this in higher ed, but also in how are you teaching teachers, like librarians and others, about service?
It's teachers, it's faculty.
Yeah.
It's okay. So we in this field, as we well know, we are the ones who are maybe not more than happy. Sometimes we might not feel too great about playing with all this stuff, but most of us are reasonably technically at least curious. And we'll poke this stuff with a stick and we'll figure out whether we like it or we don't like it, or it's going to take over the world, or whatever the case may be. However we feel about it or don't, that's fine. We're the ones who will actually play it, try it out, look and see how it might work for our libraries, for our students, and so on and so forth. The people that I work with, because I'm actually, I teach for my department, but, you know, I also work with accessibility and technology across the entire campus. So, you know, I'm working with folks who teach humanities and, you know, physics and biology, and people who are not thinking about this, people who were not trained in education or librarianship or technology or anything else. And so they are just like, AI's of the devil, it's bad, don't use it. And so, and they don't want to know anything about it. They're not even trying to figure out if it's good, bad, like it, don't like it, what to do with it. But the fact still remains is that their college students are already using it, possibly in a legal, ethical way, probably not. But there's no gauge, there's no how to use it in a better manner, how to understand it, how to have anything, whether we feel that it can be used ethically or is ethical or fight, you know, the larger, you know, situation of where it's coming from or being built, or fight back and get rid of it, whatever the case may be, is there and it is being used. And so we have, you know, we have a job here on this campus of, you know, introducing folks to even what is task-oriented, generative. What does it mean? What are these things? I mean, how do they work? How can you make them work? What can you do with them? How can you build to them? Some of them are, you know, open source. And so just making things more understandable so that they're not so scary, because we still have folks who are just like, yeah, this internet thing is, you know, a fad. And so you want folks to have more of an understanding to make further decisions. Students, you know, who may not have as much of, you know, if they're new to it as well, but most of them are already out there trying that stuff. Our younger people have, if they have access, they have more of a heart to try. But not everyone is as curious or with, you know, the desire to try things out as we are. That's not exactly like totally ethical, but it is at least leading to why we also try to have policies and examples and information for people's syllabi. And, you know, we try to have sample statements just to make people feel a little bit better. And that's some of the things that I know we've created on campus. But, you know, I've also had folks from K through 12 who've reached out to say, you know, what can I include here or in a school statement, or, you know, and yeah, it is how to use it. But, you know, if we've got it around, we try to have some items.
And Elizabeth, I'm gonna let you finish this off on your sort of thoughts on ethical considerations that we should be looking at.
So I think it's really important that we go back to James's point that actually we do need to be talking about biased copyright hallucination. You know, the fact that we just, you know, it's all, I have to agree that every training program that I've been in, it's all about, woo, look what it can do for me. And actually there's no thought process gone into the kind of things that you need to be looking out for. So for example, and I think James mentioned this as well, is the fact that, you know, I can get ChatGPT to create a blog post for me about whatever, school libraries, for example, and it can churn something out if my prompt is good. But I can quickly and easily see, because of my years of expertise, where it's talking rubbish, where it isn't. But students can't. And actually that is a real concern, and that we need to be guiding our teachers and our school librarians to be talking more about this, to be pushing that ethical concern. And it makes me laugh actually, because there was a conversation on X the other day which was talking about just copyright. We weren't even talking about AI. We were just talking, there was a conversation going on about copyright, and was it all right to put a full text of a book that was being read in class into a document. And it was like, you know, these are teachers talking. So if they can't even understand copyright within the traditional sense of the word, the copyright for AI is so much more difficult to explain and understand. So, you know, we've got a lot of learning to do, and the ethical stand as far as school librarians are concerned is huge, and we should be the ones that are standing up saying, there are concerns and we need to be able to navigate them, and this is how we're going to do it. Have I got an answer for that? I haven't, but actually voicing our concerns is not being the naysayers, it's being the people that maybe have a bit more understanding of what copyright and bias and, you know, making sure something's truthful really looks like in the normal sense. So that should just be pushing ourselves further into the AI world, as far as I'm concerned.
I mean, I completely agree with you. And I think that is something that is so important because, oh, thank you for the time reminder, Heather. I was just about to, I have it set for 3:52. But I don't like, I had written sort of 8 questions, but I knew we were just going to get to like 4 or 5 because all of us love to talk. But I do think that this is something that is so important that we really must do. We are the leaders in our buildings, in our schools, in general on teaching digital citizenship and media literacy and ethics behind it. So we have to be the ones who are having these conversations with people and having these discussions. And I don't think it is wrong for us to say, you know, hey, we really do have some concerns about, you know, this data set or the biases and all of that go into it. And I think it's something that is so important. So with that in mind, I am going to change things up just a little bit, which is something that I tend to do. And I'm going to sort of ask the question of everybody, and then we'll sort of get to 1 or 2 questions. But my question to all of you guys is, what do you want educators to sort of take away from this today? If you could say, like, this is the 2 to 3 points I want you to take away from this, from what I'm going to be discussing today, and either in my presentation or this conversation, what do you think they need to know going into this new school year and that can help them? And I'm going to start with Elizabeth on this one.
I knew you were going to come to me first.
Expert trainer on this.
I think what I would like people to take away is an understanding that, you know, I can hear what James is saying, that we need to really pull the reins in and be careful that what we're doing, and we can talk about these, you know, make these big companies rein themselves in. There's so much money in it, you can't, I don't believe. So our next step is for us as professionals to understand enough from our background, from our understanding of research and ethics and critical thinking, to be able to pass that on to the teachers and the school librarians and the students that we're dealing with. Demonstrate by the way that you use AI, demonstrate by the way you are working and moving forward. And I think it's that, you know, yeah, make sure that everybody learns, and then make sure everybody is actually taking control of the things that they can control, I think is what I want to say.
I appreciate that. We'll go to May.
Going into the school year, I think particularly school librarians have the tools that they need right now. We are very brave. We try all kinds of things. I feel like the library is where things change, where things start, and having that in our hearts when we're thinking about AI, the ethics of AI, and how we need to talk with students about the use of AI is really important. So I'm glad that we already have that. I also think that our research skills are really serving us well right now. Tracking copyright as it makes its way through the courts has been just a kind of a wild ride, but I am here for finding out what's happening and how that impacts my students and what's going to happen to my students. So I think our research skills are serving us well, keeping up with the changes, when people are using it well, when people are using it not great, and how that's going to be in our class. So yeah, I'm going to go with, we have the tools we need.
Okay, Heather.
Distracted by the chat again. Sorry, I've been
Oh
reading.
no, the chat is great.
I've been reading through and I respond when I can. The main thing that I want people to take away, know that, of course, this is just like the opening panel. You know, we're just sitting here chatting about our experiences with this at our various levels. You have a wide range of programs coming up after this. You've got concurrent sessions that are going to delve deeper, and I think I'm right.
Yeah,
I'm not incorrect. Okay.
you're right.
It looked, I saw concern looked on people's faces. I was like, oh Lord, am I lying? No. So, I mean, you've got a wide range of sessions coming up that are going to be very specific. And so if you're, sorry guys, sorry everybody, I'm in a LEED certified building in front of a wide range of screens and my lights turn off because it doesn't know that I'm here. So I do apologize. Welcome to what it looks like when I'm teaching class at night. So, pardon me for that. If you're looking for specific tools, if you're looking to try something out, if you're looking for more focus on ethics, if you're looking for whatever the case may be, there's probably something that's going to light your fire, whatever you're looking for. You know, try something. This is what I talk about in my tech tool sessions whenever I present. You know, try something new, you know, try something out. We don't have to be reckless about it, but we also need to know that, you know, we've had AI for a while. It's here. We want to try to understand it because we are the leaders of technology in our schools. We want to hopefully help others to understand it, especially those who might be fearful of it. You know, we don't want to just have our heads in the sand. We also probably don't want to just like, you know, run into the fire, but, you know, we are the ones that should have a better understanding of how to use it, how to cite it, how to, you know, at least work with it and teach others as best we can. So, but you know, you've got a wealth of information here and you've got some amazing speakers. I was looking at the lineup and I'm going, I know a lot of these folks, very cool. And so, you know, it's here and take advantage of it.
I appreciate that. And James, your takeaways, your final takeaways.
You said like advice to a teacher, right? Somebody leaving.
Yeah,
this.
advice, takeaways, things that you want them to sort of leave knowing.
I think the first thing I would say is don't stress out about this. Like I've seen some terrible posts, some terrible talks. Like even at ISTE, someone on stage said it's unethical to not teach this to kids. I'm like, that is a strong statement. At this point, I mean, and I'm talking about generative AI. Like I know AI has been here since 1950, whatever. I'm talking about ChatGPT since 2022. It just does not make sense to tell an entire group of people, educators, that they have to be teaching this. I mean, talk about it. Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's a lot of classes. It would be a good topic. Write about it, talk about it, make projects about it. But thinking that you have to do this right this second, I think is not a reasonable expectation. And if somebody is expecting you to do that, I mean, I think there's things like you can push back on it. Somebody mentioned in the chat, I think like the terms, like just months ago, a lot of these tools were 18 and over. That's it. Months ago. Like we just started school and we're telling people it's unethical to not teach this. Like that is, my head is not in the sand. Like I'm not afraid of AI. I just am afraid of what's happening with it and what will happen if we keep using it in certain ways. Like that's what I'm afraid of. I'm not afraid of the made up stories of it taking over or all that kind of craziness. I don't think we're thinking through the things. I don't think we're looking far ahead enough to be making good decisions. We're allowing others to make decisions for us. And we're getting pressure. Like someone mentioned to me at ISTE that like I forget the word, but like hostile. I'm not hostile about this stuff. I just think people are not thinking about the ramifications of messing this up. So again, the takeaway is don't stress out. Read about it, do some research, learn about it, but don't feel like you've got to have the answer right now or even next year or the year after that. I just don't think that's possible.
I think I think that's really important. And I think, in general, I think this whole conversation is more like, hey, you take what is going to be good for you. Like, somebody said in the chat, and I'm going to go see if I can find it again. Like, it's got use AI for the good, not evil. So, and then there are some really good things that can be done, and there's people who are going to sort of be discussing some of the cool ways and great ways. And I'm going to talk a little about it in the final keynote about the sort of the good, bad, and ugly. And Joyce is right. Research is changing, and how we do research is changing, and how we're going to look at how we're going to look at how research is done and ways that we can use it that can be really helpful. I mean, there's a tool that I just am like of love with called Notebook LM that I really think has the potential to really help students when it comes to research by allowing them to build their own data set using resources like database articles and all of those things that we normally tell students to use, but they can now take it and then have the ability to, go in more depth into it and ask it questions, which we couldn't fully easily do before. So there are these tools that I really think are going to be good tools for that. But I think we also have to realize that there's going to be tools and other things that just aren't good. And, and we've seen that. We're seeing that already, the deep fakes and all of those tools that are, that are how AI is being used in ways that are not appropriate. And I think we have to teach our students the good, from the good and the bad and the ugly of it. But my question to everybody at the end is sort of, for the remaining time, please raise my question from the Q&A. Thanks. So does anybody know what that question was? Okay, Heather, maybe you can tell us.
So, well, it's a two-part question. So, what, according to you, needs to be the role of generative AI, such as ChatGPT, Claude, and other chatbots, in effective managing school libraries? And in addition, is it according to your school library needs to use robots and robotic systems in daily work? So, what do you feel needs to be the role of these tools in effective management? And, how can, according to school libraries, needs to use robots? Do we need to do, or can they be useful? Do we need to use them in our daily work?
Okay, so I guess the question is, does anyone want to sort of take that question and try to answer it a little? I mean, my answer is I don't believe as a librarian we need to use robotics in everyday activities. I think, like in the school that I'm going into now, we have a robotics lab and we have a robotics class, which, the students can take. My role would be to help with that, but it's not to use it every day. Nor do I think that that's like something that should be an everyday occurrence. Should it be something that maybe is like a center? Yeah, if you want to do that. But I don't know if it's an everyday type of thing. If anyone else sort of wants to answer that question, please go ahead.
I don't run a library. A lot of my AI tools that I use are more for presentations. So I've used things like Beyond and there was another one. I do more content creation, and so some of my content creation is definitely AI based. I tell it what I need, it gives it to me, which is, for me, it can be really useful, but I'm still the one who's creating it. It is more assisting me in that range. But, when I've been asked to create videos for a grant, or I have my own YouTube channel and these different resources can help me out, and these are not free tools, they're not, you pay for them. One of them's called Beyond, one of them's called Synthesia. Nobody likes Synthesia. They thought it was creepy and weird. And everybody thought that Some of the comparisons were to adult films with the characters. But anyway, they still helped me create videos. I just didn't use the Synthesia ones. But, I mean, there's some really nice tools out there for people who, like me, can't draw a conclusion. It helps to create, different video styles and things like that. So, there's some fun stuff. Anyway, that's me.
So like 2 things that you use sort of in your library all the time.
So we're not all good at everything, right? Let's just acknowledge this, right? So one of the things I'm just hands down the worst at is digital design. Like making signage is not me. They're terrible every single time. I am the white slide, black text person. So I'm often using Canva and Adobe Express to help me support the things that are required by my job, but also I'm not the best at. My kids deserve the best. And if I can make that happen by being helped, then I'm going to take that.
I would say I agree with you. Like I stink at summarizing books. I'm always like, it's such a good book. It's so good. Read it. But then like, I never like can summarize it in a way that like gets the kids to want to read it other than it's so good. So like for me, ChatGPT or Gemini or one of those to take and summarize it to get the kids sort of interested in reading a little blurb is a game changer. So like for me, I use AI for things that aren't that make things easier for me. And to make things better. And Heather is reminding me we only have like 2 or 3 minutes left. So I want to get to Elizabeth to sort of end this and give us 1 or 2 tools. But before we sort of have to go to our next sessions, which there are really some great sessions, and Steve will talk to us about that in a minute.
Okay, well, so I'll make this very, very quick. I love to use AI to help me generate slides for presentations. I have to admit that it isn't always a lifesaver. It sometimes gets my thought process going, but I spend more time unpicking the slides and recreating them than the AI tool helped me with in the beginning. So not all AI is brilliant, but it does help me get started. I do like using ChatGPT to help me create an outline for a presentation or for a talk that I'm giving, because it allows me just to get my thoughts down on paper and then I explode. I think everybody's been saying that it's actually a starting point, it's not the finishing point, and it's the opportunity to delve deeper into your understanding in a way that if you're working on your own, especially like most of us are, you haven't got someone to ask or talk to, and actually it's a quick let's test this theory, let's have a think about what it is that I'm doing, and that's where it helps me. I hope you enjoy the rest of your day.
Yeah, I mean, I thank all of you guys so much for coming on this discussion. I think we could have had this like hours more of this conversation, and I appreciate everybody who has taken the time to listen to this and have this conversation with us. I think this is a starting point. I don't think any of us here are trying to say that we have any answers, but I like that we're having this conversation and talking through some of these things. I think that's so important. And I want my takeaway for you guys is go to these sessions and learn some things, but know that use what's going to helpful for you. Maybe only use it for you for a little bit. It doesn't have to be with the kids yet, or try it out and figure out how it can help you, or if it can't help you. But have those discussions and go through and have those conversations. So Steve, I'm going to turn it over to you now so you can sort of explain the rest.
Okay, thanks, Elissa, James, IdaMae, Heather, and Elizabeth. That was awesome, but we do have to encourage people to move to the next sessions because the presenters are ready for you. Have a great day. There's lots more to come.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you, Elizabeth.